Hi, I'm JP Murrieta with the New Mexico Activities Association. Year in and year out, it seems like there's some confusion or misunderstanding on how the seeding and selection process works. This video is designed to help you understand how the teams get seeded for the state championships. There's a misconception that the NMAA has input or bias with the seeding and selection to the state tournament. There is no input given by any NMAA staff member. Let me repeat that. There is no input given by the NMAA. Teams don't get seeded higher or lower because you think we like that school or don't like another school. That's not how it works. Here is the criteria used by the NMAA to determine the seeding and selection. This criteria was voted on by the member schools. We look at a team's finish in regular season district play. We make head-to-head comparisons against schools. We look at wins against district champions regardless of class. A team's overall record, or rather their win percentage, is another element of criteria, as well as the school's max preps ranking. The final criteria is member school input, or a coach's form submitted to the NMAA before the seeding process begins. All of this criteria is data-driven. We are using numbers and numbers only to seed and select. Not one of the criteria is more important than another. For example, head-to-head does not weigh more in determining a seed than overall record. If there is a tie between two schools with criteria points, then head-to-head will be used. If there's no head-to-head competition or the head-to-head is tied, then the max preps ranking will be used to break the tie. Here's how the process works. First, we receive the district placement form from the district chairperson. We get this form from every single district. The district chair will write down who finished first, second, third, etc. This is very important. In seeding and selection, a team cannot be seeded or selected in front of another team that finished above them in the district standings. Here's an example. If one school finished second in the regular season and another school finished third in the regular season, the third place team cannot be seeded ahead of the second place team. The member schools and commission and board of directors wanted to put importance on the district season. So you can't be seated above someone that finished higher. Now, in the event of a tie in the regular season district standings, the NMAA staff may use the 6 criteria points or any other head-to-head competition to determine the seeding and selection order between the two teams that are tied. After we get the district placement forms, then we receive the school input forms. These are filled out from the coach from each school. We request them from every school, whether they think they will make the postseason or not. It's very important all coaches submit this form because it has an effect on seeding and selection. Once we get these forms, the votes are tabulated by putting them into a matrix or a spreadsheet that looks like this. All the teams are listed vertically and horizontally. Now, this is an example from the 2019 boys basketball seeding for Class 5A. Volcano Vista submitted their member school input form. They voted Las Cruces first, Volcano Vista second, Rio Rancho third, etc., etc. So Las Cruces gets 16 points, Volcano Vista gets 15 points, Rio Rancho gets 14 points, etc., etc., all the way down their rankings. The last team on a coach's input form would get 1 point. We go to another school that submitted their form. Carlsbad listed Volcano Vista first, Las Cruces second, Rio Rancho third, etc., down their poll and ranking. So Volcano Vista gets 16 points, Las Cruces gets 15 points, Rio Rancho gets 14 points, and all the way down. We then add up all the points for every school that submitted a form, and the school with the most amount of points becomes number 1 in the coaches poll. The team with the second most points becomes number 2 in the coaches ranking, etc., etc. So that's how we determine where a team ranks when it comes to coaches' input. As you can see, there are some blank columns. There are schools that don't submit a form. If coaches don't send in these forms, it can be greatly affected where a team might be seated. So make sure, if you're a coach, you get in that form. The district placement forms are in, the member school input forms are in. We are ready to begin the seating and selection process. Let's start with two schools. How about we compare Las Cruces and Rio Rancho? Here's a look at the 6 criteria points we use to evaluate the seeds. The first criteria looked at is finish in regular season district play. Las Cruces finished first, and Rio Rancho did not win their district. So Las Cruces gets a point over Rio Rancho. Next is head-to-head. They didn't play each other, so no point for either team. Next, we measure up wins versus district champs. And when I say wins against district champions, remember, it does not matter the class. Las Cruces could beat a district champ from El Paso, and we would count that. Rio Rancho could beat a district champ from Class 3A, and we would count that. Now, Las Cruces had 1 win against a district champ. Rio Rancho had 6, so Rio Rancho gets a point there. Next is overall record, or their win percentage. Las Cruces is unbeaten at 28-0. They obviously had a better overall record, so they get a point over Rio Rancho. Then we move on to the Max Preps ranking, and we get the Max Preps rankings the morning of seeding and selection. Max Preps had Las Cruces higher in their ranking, so Las Cruces gets another point. Finally, we compare the coach's input form, which I showed you with that matrix. Las Cruces was higher on the coach's input, so they get another point. As you can see, Las Cruces earned a total of 4 points when matched up against Rio Rancho. The overall score was 4-1. So, Las Cruces must be seeded higher than Rio Rancho. That's how it works. We do this for every team comparing one to the other. Now let's take a look at one more example. Let's pair up Las Cruces and Volcano Vista from the 2019 season. The first criteria point is district finish. Las Cruces finished first and Volcano Vista finished first. Neither school gets a point there. Next, we look at head-to-head. They didn't play each other, so neither school gets a point there. Next, wins against district champions. In this case, Las Cruces had 1 win against a district champ. Volcano Vista had wins against 3 district champs. Volcano Vista gets a point for that criteria. Next is overall record. Las Cruces gets a point on that criteria. The next criteria is Max Preps ranking. Max Preps had Volcano Vista 1 and Las Cruces 2, so Volcano Vista gets a point for that criteria. And the last criteria we look at is the coach's input forms, which we discussed earlier. They have Las Cruces number 1 and Volcano Vista number 2, so Las Cruces would get that point. Now that leaves 2 points for Las Cruces and 2 points for Volcano Vista. As we said at the beginning of this video, if there is a tie between 2 schools with criteria points, then head-to-head will be used. If there is no head-to-head competition or the head-to-head is tied, then the Max Preps ranking will be used to break that tie. Las Cruces and Volcano Vista didn't play each other, so then Max Preps is used to break the tie. And as we mentioned, Max Preps had Volcano Vista 1 and Las Cruces ranked 2, so Volcano Vista will then be seated ahead of Las Cruces. Again, this is all data-driven. There is no opinionated input, no bias. It's all based on those 6 criteria points. Now, sometimes it gets a little tricky. Let's say, for example, there's a 3-way tie. Here's another example from a couple years back in softball. Miyamura beat Bernalillo in criteria points 3-2. Los Lunas beat Miyamura in criteria points 4-2, but Bernalillo beat Los Lunas in criteria points 3-2. So which school gets seated above the other? There is a way to determine it. Again, it's all based on the numbers. We use the 6 criteria points with all 3 schools. So let's go through this. First criteria point, finish in district play. Los Lunas finished 2nd in their district, Miyamura finished 3rd, and Bernalillo was a district champ. Now to simplify, we rank the 3 schools, 1, 2, 3. So as you can see by this 1 criteria point, since we are ranking them, a team will win the 3-way tie with the lowest total points. Next is head-to-head. In head-to-head wins against the 3 schools, Los Lunas beat Miyamura and Bernalillo didn't play either school, so again, we issue 1 point for Los Lunas, 2 for Bernalillo, and 3 for Miyamura. Next criteria point is wins against district champions. Los Lunas beat 3 district champions, Miyamura beat 2, and Bernalillo beat 1. Therefore, Los Lunas won that category, so we put a 1 next to them. Miamura gets a 2 and Bernalillo a 3. Next is overall record, and Los Lunas had a win percentage of .615. Miamura 720 and Bernalillo 880. Since Bernalillo had the best overall record, we put a 1 next to them. Then it's Miamura 2 and Los Lunas 3. In the Max Preps ranking, Miamura was ranked 5th, Bernalillo 6th, and Los Lunas 7th. So the order of points is 1 for Miamura, 2 for Bernalillo, and 3 for Los Lunas. In the coaches' input, they had Los Lunas ranked 5th, Miamura 6th, and Bernalillo 7th. So Los Lunas is a 1, Miamura 2, and Bernalillo 3. To break the tie, we add up all the points in the 6 criteria, and as you can see, Los Lunas had 11, Bernalillo with 12, and Miamura with 13. Now remember, in breaking a tie, the smallest amount of points is the winner. So Los Lunas, with the smallest amount of points in this particular tiebreaker, would be seated above Miamura and Bernalillo. Now since Los Lunas will be seated above the other schools, we can now take them out of the equation. Now we have Miamura and Bernalillo. We compare them against each other on their own. Since Miamura beat Bernalillo against each other on the 6 criteria points, Miamura has to be seated above Bernalillo. That's how you break a 3-way tie. Now there are some situations in a 3-way tie when 2 schools have the same amount of points. For example, schools 1 and 2 have 12 points and school 3 has 14 points. Well, we can't take school 1 or 2 out because the 2 top teams are tied. So in this situation, we take out school number 3 since they would have the most points in a 3-way comparison. Once we take them out, remember, they can't be seated above school 1 or school 2. Then we would compare school number 1 with school number 2 to determine who would be seated above the other. So, as you can see, as we go through all the criteria points in seating and selection, everything is data driven. There is no bias, no opinion, no input given by the NMAA. When people question why one school was seated above another, it all comes down to the numbers. You have to go back to the 6 criteria points and compare each school against the other in all classification. Every seating and selection position is justified by the data. Feel free to reach out for any further clarification or questions. Thank you for watching. Good evening and welcome to the State Basketball Championship Seating and Selection Show brought to you by Western Sky Community Care. This is where we announce the teams and matchups and break down the bracket a little bit. Before we get started, how about a little roll call? I know the Sandia girls basketball team is together watching. Shout it out, Matadors, you're in the field and playing some good ball right now. Who will you be playing in the first round? Well, you're going to have to wait. The Clovis Christian girls basketball team is anxiously awaiting in front of their screen tonight. The Logan boys and girls are watching at their school. I know Tularosa is checking out the show in their gym. I hope the screen is big and you can see your name come up nice and large. And speaking of down south, Gadsden is watching tonight. Hello, Panthers! The Kirtland Central boys and girls are watching, so shout out to my friends in the Four Corners. The Tohatchee boys and girls are both watching tonight as well. The Cougars want to know where they land. The Highland Lady Hornets are watching at Highland High School in the alumni room. That's a nice setup they have there, by the way. The boys are watching at Coach Woody's house. Hey, where was my invite, Coach Woody? Speaking of coaches, Coach Davidson and the Bosque Bobcats are checking us out. The Melrose boys are watching this one. Kevin Lackey and the bunch want to know who they will play in the first round. Chaparral is at their team captain's house tonight, so thanks for hosting your team. Aye, aye, Captain. The Springer Red Devils are watching. So are the Capital Jaguars, who pulled off a big win over rival Santa Fe on Saturday night. The Hot Springs Tigers are all eyes and all ears. Listen, just tell me who you want to play in the first round, and I'll see if I can line it up for you. Just shout it out right now. Yell it at the screen. Go ahead. I'm listening. Okay, well, I can't hear anything. So, you're all watching the show to find out who's in, what seed did you get, and who you'll play. But before we get to that, let's review the seeding process so there's no confusion. The following criteria is used to determine a team's seed. This criteria was voted on by the member schools. We look at finish in regular season district play, max preps rankings, overall record, wins against district champs, regardless of class, coaches' input, and head-to-head matchups. There is no input given by the NMAA. Everyone say it with me now. No input by the NMAA. It's all data-driven. There is no bias for or against any school or team. You may have seen the instructional video demonstrating the entire process, so there should be no confusion on how your school received the seeding they did. The process is spelled out with the criteria points that was voted on by the member schools. Let's start with the ladies in Class 1A. Anybody have a guess who's the number one seed? Well, if you have the NMAA 24/7 app, you already know because we released the top seeds on the app earlier today. For those 1 or 2 people who don't have the app, the top honor in Class 1A goes to Logan. Logan is the first number one seed of the day. Earlier this season, Logan won the EPAC tournament for the first time in 43 years. They came back from 16 points down and 2 overtimes to win that championship, so they know something about fighting to the finish. Their style is fast with high intensity. They lost to rival Melrose in the district championship game last week, but they are ready to make a run in this bracket.
I feel very blessed to be on one of the most talented and athletic teams that Logan Varsity Girls Basketball has ever had. And I believe we're playing really good solid ball right now, but we haven't peaked yet. And going in the state tournament, we're very focused, we're very humbled, and we're very hungry. And I just believe with God's favor that we can bring home the blue.
Winning a state championship title with the group of girls I have this year would be a huge accomplishment, not only to me, but to my coaches and teammates, especially seeing that we haven't won a girls' state basketball title since 2013, and especially seeing that it's my senior year, and it would make it even more bittersweet and special to all of us.
We previously won the 2019 state championship volleyball game. We went in the underdogs and learned a lot about perseverance and having the right mindset. It really shows this basketball season. 10 of the 14 girls that were on that team now play basketball. And we learned that it doesn't matter how strong you start the season, it matters how strong you finish it. And we've had an amazing start and hope to have an even better finish. And we can't wait to see what the state tournament is holding for us.
Let's take a look at that first bracket. Girls Class 1A, it's Logan against Dora. Tatum will take on Cimarron. Mosquero Roy will face Animas. Pine Hill earned a 4 and will host Hondo Valley. Then it's Fort Sumner and Mountain Air. Now Mountain Air finished behind Hondo Valley in district, so Hondo has to be seated above them. Gateway Christian and Clovis Christian, Tohajli and Camado. Melrose is the 2 seed and will take on Cliff. Moving on to Class 2A, Peñasco has been the number 1 team most of the year, and they are still number 1. Peñasco has the number 1 seed. They are 27-2 on the year. Their only losses are to Bernalillo and Escalante, but the Panthers haven't lost in a month. The Peñasco girls have never won a state title, and they are heading into this year's bracket with one goal: getting that blue trophy. It's been a goal since practice started in 2019.
We talked about it since day one. I think every year you should go in and your goal should be state. If you're not trying to win, then I don't know what you're playing for.
People are like, oh, they've made it to state for 4 years. They haven't done anything. They're not good. But this year we're coming out to get that championship.
I've told these guys all season, or these girls all season, is you guys get a chance to write your own story. It doesn't matter what the rankings are and none of that. Your failures from the past. My team failed a lot, but you learn from those, and you let all that stuff, the doubt, the failures, you let all that fuel you.
Peñasco is the 1. You will face Loving in the opening round. Here is the girls 2A bracket. Escalante and Rehoboth is the 8-9 matchup. Magdalena, the 5, they will meet Cuesta. Lordsburg will host Cloudcroft this week. On the other side of the bracket, it's Newcomb and McCurdy. Texco will take on Clayton. Texco lifted a girls basketball blue trophy back in 2018, and some of these girls won a state title in volleyball just a few months ago. Defending state champ Pecos is a 7 seed this year. They will host Alamo Navajo. Last year's state runner-up, Mescalero Apache, is the 2 seed. Their first-round matchup is Eunice. Moving on to girls Class 3A. The top team in the bracket is Navajo Prep and head coach Rainey Crisp. They are 24-2 with their only losses coming at the hands of Gallup and Kirtland Central. Navajo Prep is currently riding a 12-game win streak and just blowing out opponents, winning by an average of 30 points a game during that stretch. Head coach Rainey Crisp knows a little something about winning state titles. She did it as a player and a coach with Navajo Prep. She says she hasn't had this much talent on a team since the last time they won it all in 2009.
We've come close. We had our great runs, but this year, they all have that unique thing that they bring to the team. I think, that's going to get us that run to the Blue Trophy.
Let's take a look at who else is in the field of the girls 3A bracket. Navajo Prep gets Crown Point in the opening round. The winner will face either Laguna Acoma or Tucumcari. Hatch Valley's a 5 seed. Ben Trujillo's group is 22-6 after winning their district tournament championship. The Bears will host Zuni. West Las Vegas will meet district rival St. Michael's in the opening round. Tohatchee earned a 3 seed and will take on Dexter. I know Dexter's watching. This Tohatchee group is up-tempo with pressure defense, and they're exciting to watch. Montana Soto is scoring about 13 points a game, and Cameron Sosi adds about a dozen a night. Santa Fe Indian School is the 6. More on them in just a moment as they match up with Theroux. Socorro is a 7 against defending state champ Robertson. Tularosa is the 2. Are you happy with that number, ladies? I know you're watching. In Tularosa, you will see Sandia Prep this week. Now, Santa Fe Indian School reached the final last year, but they came up short. That was their first appearance in the title since 2012. Head coach Patricia Chavez is in her 2nd year in charge of the Lady Braves. She says her team is peaking at the right time.
I think the kids are really starting to trust each other and bond together. Sometimes it's not about X's and O's. It's really about that camaraderie, about, being together as a team and sharing the love, I call it. And just recently, in the last few weeks, the kids came up with a championship mentality. We got to come up with a championship mentality and play like that every game.
It's a new season once it comes to state. Like, your rankings really doesn't matter. If you beat them like 3 times, it really doesn't matter because it's a new season. Everybody wants that blue trophy just like we want it.
Just to get that blue and that, the medal and everything is just a feeling that we all want to have.
On to Class 4A. The state's 2nd largest classification has been dominated by Los Lunas. The Tigers have won back-to-back titles and played in the final 6 of the last 7 years. In the words of their coach and sister Sledge, we are family. The Los Lunas girls basketball program and head coach Marty Zeller set up residency at the pit every March.
My first year here was it was a big deal. The big saying was trip to the pit, trip to the pit, which, the group didn't even know what Selection Sunday was.
They've come a long way from trip to the pit to expecting to make it to the final every season. They've played in the title game 6 of the last 7 years.
Zeller calls it our home away from home. So, I don't want to say that we're used to being there, but we for sure expect to be there. Coach Zeller always talks about our standard and that our standard is set really high. And our expectations is to play in the pit that Friday night every year. It's expected of us.
This team's definitely expected to win another state title.
But winning back-to-back titles last year wasn't on everybody's mind.
If I were going to pick out a particular year that would be a surprise, it would have been last year. Because the year before, we won state and we lost our top 5 scorers and we lost our top 5 players, so to speak.
It was just so special because we lost so many key players the year before. So just coming back and winning it again, it felt like it was our team and we proved that we could do it on our own.
And now they're in a position to do it a 3rd straight time. Not much has changed in regards to their style. This group will press, push the ball offensively with an easy basket mentality.
If you steal the basketball, we're looking to push and every opportunity we possibly can. If we're going to steal the basketball and hold it, we're not going to have those opportunities.
Kind of just a give and go, all gas, no brakes, Just got to keep running, tire teams out. That's how we play.
Zeller only has 8 varsity players. He says he gives them a conditioning test on day 1 to determine if they're either varsity material or they're not.
It's a good test. You do get tired the first day, but it's nice just to come into the program, especially if you're new, and just know that if you want to play for this team, you have to be in shape. That's one of the priorities. Due in part to that conditioning, Zeller usually has his team peaking at the right time.
In the 2015 year, we were 5-2 and we finished 30-2. And this year we were 5-4 and we were close to 5-5. close to 500.
And now they haven't lost since late December.
They had set a goal at the beginning of the year to go undefeated this year, and I thought that was pretty unrealistic as young as we are. So maybe next year, and I mean, we're moving up to 5A, so if you're going to do it, let's go, bring it on. You know, we want Hobbs and Piedra Vista, Volcano Vista, La Cueva.
To all Class 5A teams, be ready. The Tigers will be coming soon, and we've seen what they're capable of. Los Lunas are in the top spot in their bracket. They haven't lost since the day after Christmas. Their only loss to a team in their classification was dropping to Kirtland Central earlier in the year. More on Kirtland in just a minute. But first, for those watch parties with their phones in hand, waiting to take a picture of the screen to post it on social media, okay, frame it up, make sure you got everything ready to hit snap. We'll go for it. Girls 4A bracket, here's the rest of the field. Los Lunas will see St. Pius again. Espanola is an 8 and Bloomfield a 9. I'll explain how they got there in just a moment. Pewaukee is a 5 against Lovington. Highland is hosting as a 4. They get Goddard. Portales is a 3 against Valley. Bernalillo gets Grants. Gallup dropped to a 10 seed to see Silver, the 7. Then it's Shiprock and Kirtland Central. Wow, now that is a first-round matchup. Couple things from this bracket. Gallup finished 3rd in their district behind Bloomfield, so they can't get into the field until Bloomfield gets in. The same situation applied to Goddard and Lovington. Goddard finished below Lovington in district, so they can't be seated above them. Now, when it comes to Espanola and Pewaukee, they tied in the regular season, although Espanola beat Pewaukee head-to-head. But remember, this is based on those 6 criteria points. And when you compare the two, Pewaukee is ahead of them in criteria points. When you compare Espanola and teams like Bernalillo and Silver, Espanola still didn't have the criteria points to be seated above those two schools. So Bernalillo is the 6 and Silver the 7. Then it's Espanola at 8. It's all about those criteria points. The final bracket for the girls is Class 5A. Hobbs came up short in the final last year, but they reeled off 24 straight wins to start the year. They earned the #1 seed in their bracket. Their only loss up to this point is dropping their final game of the regular season to Carlsbad by just 2 points. Wisdom Anthony is their leading scorer with over 13 points a game. You can expect another pressing up and down attacking team when you face them. Hobbs won it all in 2018 under head coach Joey Carpenter. Congrats to the Eagles on the #1 spot. Now, one team that's never won a state title in girls basketball is Piedra Vista. They hope to change that this month. Their leading scorer, Lene Billy, hopes to follow in her mom's footsteps and lift that blue trophy. 2 years ago, the Piedra Vista girls basketball team finished with 23 wins. Last year, it was 26 and a Final Four appearance in the state tournament. This year, they're trying to top that with their first ever state title.
Mostly everyone from last year came back, so we definitely want to redeem what we did last year and get that blue trophy.
Everyone has the same goal right now, and that's state, and so everyone's really determined to hold up that blue trophy.
Lene Billy is their leading scorer. She reached the 1,000-point plateau for her career earlier this season, and she's only a sophomore.
And the good thing about it is she's a very unselfish player. You know, she averages about 4 assists a game, and she plays both ends of the court. She's just an all-around basketball player, one of the smartest basketball players I've seen in a long time.
Lene's mom was a state champ herself at Shiprock High School.
It'd be really great to do what my mom did and follow her footsteps.
The Panthers also get plenty of production from the Watson sisters, Elena and Selena.
Definitely competitive. It's really fun, but it's kind of like a thing I've grown up with, so I feel like I know exactly where she is on the court, and it really helps me as a player.
Elena Watson committed to play at Adams State, and she says a midseason loss helped get the previously unbeaten Panthers back on track.
When we lost to Sandia, that really stalled the pressure off of us, but we're going strong.
Yeah, you know, we had that target on our back for a long time, and this year, and we had that loss at Sandia, and it kind of woke us up a little bit. It was a good loss. The girls came in to practice. Our practices have been better, and you know, I don't think there's any pressure. Pressure is man-made, so you know, just go out there and do your job, have fun, and the results will take care of itself.
We will see what kind of results the Panthers end up with in mid-March. Like some other teams at this point in the year, Piedra Vista is dealing with some injuries. Haley Blackie suffered a torn ACL, and Chanel Penn has a broken foot, but this squad is deep. They beat La Cueva in the district tournament championship game. Release the bracket. Here's the Class 5A lineup. Hobbs will host Albuquerque High in the opening round. Carlsbad, the only team to beat Hobbs, is an 8 seed, and Cibola a 9, so the Cougars are headed south. Mayfield will meet Cleveland. La Cueva is the 4 against Oñate. La Cueva's Kaya Ingram is averaging 19 points a night. On the other side of the bracket, it's Volcano Vista against Deming. The Hawks won their district tournament championship and the last won state in 2016. Centennial is the 6 seed against defending state champ West Mesa. The Sandia Matadors are the 7 and will take on Farmington. Manzano marched right into the bracket to take on 2nd seed Piedra Vista. Now, on to the boys. Let's start with Class 1A. Melrose is the 2-time defending state champ, looking for a three-peat, and they will start their run from the top of the mountain. Melrose is the number 1 seed in 2020. Tate Sorgen is their leading scorer. He's a double-double guy at 17 points and 10 boards a night. Senior Tristan Senna is also a key component to this group at 14 points a game. This group is stingy. They only allow 38 points a game. A three-peat is something that hasn't happened in a long time in the boys' smallest classification. The last time it happened was when San Juan won it all in 61, 62, and 63.
You know, we talked about the first day of the season just about the historical significance. There's only been one team in the early 60s that's a 1A team that has won 3 in a row. And that's pretty impressive whenever you look at, you know, the powerhouses that have been in 1A over the last 30, 40 years. So in that aspect, we talked about just that we're chasing history, but that's really all we talk about from there. We're just trying to be the best version of ourselves and trying to get better every day. We're getting every team's best effort. They're coming at us hard every night, and we have to be up for the challenge. We can't take nights off, and we just have to try to you know, match their energy level every night, and that's been a big challenge this year.
Let's take a look at that boys Class 1A bracket. Dora gets in as a 16 seed and will take on Melrose. Grady San Juan House will play Camado. Springer's the 5. They'll host Hondo Valley. Now, Evangel Christian Oak Grove jumped up to a 4 seed because of those criteria points. They were first in district. Their overall record is 22-5 with multiple wins against district champs regardless of class. We'll show you a comparison here in just a moment, but let's go over the rest of the bracket first. Evangel Christian Oak Grove will see Cimarron this week. Tatum is 3rd against Jemez Valley. Then it's Fort Sumner and Mountain Air. Elida is 7 against Logan. And don't sleep on Maxwell. They lost to Melrose twice this season, but they gave Melrose a run for their money in the Mountaineer Invitational back in January. Maxwell will meet New Mexico School for the Deaf. Gateway Christian was left out of the bracket because Dora was the last team in, and Dora has to get in before Gateway Christian. As I was mentioning before, Evangel Christian Oak Grove landed at the 4 seed because they had criteria points over several schools. Let's take, for example, the Evangel Christian Oak Grove comparison against a school like Springer. Here are the 6 criteria points. Evangel Christian Oak Grove was higher in coaches' input. Springer was 4th in max preps, and Evangel Oak Grove was 9, so Springer gets that criteria point. Evangel Christian Oak Grove won their district while Springer finished 2nd, so they get another point. Evangel Oak Grove had a win percentage of .815 while Springer was .808, so there's another point. Evangel Christian Oak Grove had 4 wins against district champs while Springer only had 1, and they didn't play head-to-head. So Evangel Christian Oak Grove outscored a school like Springer 4-1. That's how the process works. Moving on to Class 2A, Pecos has lifted a blue trophy in each of the last 3 years. They're going for 4 in a row. The seniors on this team don't know anything other than winning state titles. The Panthers are number 1 heading into the 2020 tournament. They are an impressive 25-1. Their only blemish was a loss to Santa Fe back in December. Now, Pecos is on a 22-game win streak. Senior Xavier Padilla is averaging over 18 points a game. They play up-tempo, they pressure. They're looking to run you out of the gym. They played and beat 5A Clovis earlier this season. Head coach Ira Hard says it's games like those that prepare him for this month.
We know what it takes to try and get to the championship game, or just try to get past the first round for that matter, and it's hard, and it's a new season, and so we try to stack our schedule and play the toughest teams we can play.
Pecos is 1, Estancia is 16. They match up in the first round. So do Dulce and Rehoboth as the 8-9. Newcomb is 5. They will meet Mesilla Valley. Mesilla has some size this year with 6 guys over 6 feet on the roster, including a pair of 6'5" players. Manal is the 4 and will host Escalante. Santa Rosa earned a 3 seed and will match up with Mescalero Apache. Jal and Mora will meet this weekend. Texco will take on Navajo Pine. McCurdy is in as a 15. At the bottom of the bracket, it's Magdalena, or shall I say undefeated Magdalena, 27-0. Magdalena was scheduled to play Pecos in the regular season, but bad weather prevented that much anticipated matchup from happening. They have 4 players that have scored 30 points or more at least once this season. Jordan Mirabal is averaging almost 18 points a game. His brother Jackson throws in 16, and so does Owen Olney.
I would say, if I was going to sum it up in one word, I'd say very unselfish. We play a team concept on both ends of the floor, and I think that's where we have most of our success. Any of our starting 5 could have one of those breakout nights and so I think right now we have 4 kids averaging double figures, and it's the first time in my career at a small school where you have all 5 of your starting 5 can dunk a basketball, so that's kind of exciting for us.
Let's talk boys Class 3A, the number 1 seed. Who did it go to? Let me think about that. Oh, that's right. The Sandia Prep Sun Devils. The Sun Devils are led by 6'5" Sam Henderson, who scores over 23 points a game. Sandia Prep is big. They start 3 players who are 6'3", 6'4", and 6'5". The Sun Devils are your number 1 seed. Here's the rest of the bracket. They get Cuba in the opening round. Winner will take on either Tularosa or Cobre. West Las Vegas will take on Tohatchee. Robertson will face Theroux. Robertson's leading scorer is sophomore Matthew Gonzalez, who's putting up over 18 points a night. This group has great guard play. And look out for the Bosque Bobcats and Elijah Davidson. The 6'4" senior is one of the top players in the state. Bosque will take on Raton. St. Michael's and Santa Fe Indian School aren't far from each other for their first round game. Navajo Prep and New Mexico Military Institute will meet. Then it's Hot Springs and Socorro. Now Robertson, St. Michael's, and West Las Vegas were all tied, so the 6 criteria points were used to break the tie between them. Hot Springs is the defending state champ. They graduated 4 from that squad last year and brought back 9 players with varsity experience. After head coach Derek Bean won his first, he's ready to do it again with this group.
Hungry for another one. They really enjoyed it. They were sick and tired of being told no, 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 and being at the bottom, and they're really rising to the occasion.
Only 2 more brackets to reveal. Let's take this time to allow those at a watch party to get a refill or maybe seconds on your snack plate. Go ahead. I'll wait. Get me some while you're at it. I'll wait here. I'm sure the boys 4A and 5A teams are about to throw something at the screen right now, all anxious, waiting to see. The Valley Vikings can't be angry. They are in the top spot. The defending state champs will start this go-round as the number 1 seed. Joe Coleman's bunch is full of players who suited up in last year's title game, and this time they are the hunted instead of the hunter.
Well, I mean, like last year, we showed up and we were 7th seed, so anybody can win this thing, and it's nice to have.
Now they want to know who they'll play. Here you go, the boys 4A bracket. Valley's district opponents, Hope, Highland, Del Norte, and Academy all made the field. Santa Teresa was the last team in as a 16 seed and will take on the defending state champs. Taos will take on Valencia. Hope Christian is a 5. Their leading scorer is Sean Martinez with 17 points a game. Jim Murphy's group likes to run, and they play tough defense every year. Hope will host Academy. Artesia gets Grants. Highland is coming off a really strong week, capped off by a win over Valley. The Hornets will host Lovington. Los Lunas takes on Del Norte. Espanola Valley and Kirtland Central will meet up, and Chaparral gets Gallup. Little dissection here. Chaparral is the regular season district champ. Congrats. So they're in. And teams like Santa Teresa and Lovington won their district tournaments. So they're in, which explains why a team like Goddard is out. Last but not least, boys Class 5A. Anybody can win this. Keep in mind, in the last couple of years in the state's largest classification, we've seen a 6 seed win it all, a 3 seed, an 11 seed win it all as well. The last time a number 1 seed won it all for the boys' state's largest classification was 2015. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen this year. With a 25-3 record, Las Cruces was the leading candidate for the number 1 seed, and the Bulldogs got it. Las Cruces is number 1. Their only losses are to Volcano Vista, and then a pair of defeats at the hands of Oñate. Las Cruces is looking for redemption after an early first-round exit last year. This Las Cruces is number 1, and everyone will be chasing Las Cruces as the lead dog. Trisco Heritage is the two-time defending state champ. The Jaguars beat Santa Fe in a fantastic atmosphere at the final last year. Now this team is led by Josiah Ramos, one of the top shooters in the state. And while Trisco is guard-oriented and can shoot plenty of threes, 3 is not a number they like to discuss when it comes to state.
There's no talk of three-peat, although they hear it every day from the teachers, they hear it every day from their peers, they hear it every day from Twitter. It's one of those things that's really hard to focus them up because there's just so much media outlets out there.
So, who will Las Cruces meet up in the first round? What seed did defending champ Trisco get? When are they serving dessert at your watch party? These are all questions we want to know. And here are some of the answers. You want them, you got them. Here's the Class 5A 16 seeds for the 2020 state basketball tournament. Las Cruces will host Gadsden. Welcome to the party, Panthers. Clovis beat Hobbs in the district tournament championship game. They will take on La Cueva. Trisco Heritage is your 5, and look who they get. District foe Volcano Vista. That's just how the seeding sizes up based on those criteria points. That's sure to be a first-round battle, though, between two teams that really know each other. Oñate is the 4. Oñate's Ricky Lujan put up 23 points the other night in their win against Las Cruces. Santa Fe is a 3 and will host Carlsbad. And look at this district rival first-round matchup. Rivals Cleveland and Rio Rancho. Hobbs will host El Dorado, and Capital is the 2 seed. They will match up against Centennial. Again, all of those brackets were determined by the seeding criteria. There was no input given by the NMAA. Should provide for some great basketball. That's going to do it for the 2020 State Basketball Seeding and Selection Show, brought to you by Western Sky Community Care. I encourage all of you to get out to the games. This state is passionate about basketball, and every March seems to provide upsets and exciting action. But if you can't get there in person, you can watch the action from the quarterfinals through the finals on the NFHS network. Go to nfhsnetwork.com and purchase a subscription. Don't turn this off just yet. I have a couple more things. First, I hope you've all been watching Game Time, our weekly high school sports show, which can be seen right here on our website. This week, we will have a special edition of Game Time, a state basketball tournament preview with an even closer look at some of these teams that we talked about tonight. Look for it starting on Tuesday. And lastly, let's all remember to compete with class. This game and this tournament is about more than just winning. It's about respecting your opponent, playing with integrity and responsibility. Players, parents, fans, coaches, let's all compete with class and set a good example for others. That's all for tonight. Good luck to all the teams, and we will see you on the court.